The Philistines were a fascinating and feared people who inhabited the coastal region of Canaan, occupying a strategic area known as Philistia. This land included 5 major city-states: Gaza, Ashdod, Ashkelon, Ekron, and Gath, forming a powerful confederation. Their history is particularly highlighted in the Old Testament, in books such as Judges 1 and 2 Samuel, where they appear as Israel's greatest rivals. But who, after all, were the Philistines? Their origin is commonly associated with the Sea Peoples, nomadic and maritime groups that challenged the Eastern Mediterranean civilizations at the end of the Bronze Age, around the 12th century BC. They appear in the chronicles of Ramses III, Pharaoh of Egypt, as the Peleset, one of the peoples defeated by the Egyptians, but who eventually settled in Canaan. Throughout the Bible, the Philistines stand out as antagonists in significant stories. They mastered the art of metallurgy, especially in the use of iron, and this technological superiority made them a constant threat to the Israelites, who were still in the process of territorial and cultural consolidation. The rivalry was more than just military. It represented a clash between Israel's monotheistic faith and the polytheistic practices of the Philistines, who worshipped gods such as Dagon. The biblical narrative portrays them not only as fierce enemies, but also as catalysts for moments of great divine intervention. Who doesn't remember Goliath, the Philistine giant faced by David, or the epic battles led by Samson against this oppressive people? These stories, recounted in the books of Samuel and Judges, immortalized the Philistines as symbols of resistance to God's purposes for Israel. Furthermore, the interaction and conflicts with the Philistines shaped Israel's identity, forcing the people to rely on God to overcome their limitations. It is at this point that the biblical story becomes vivid and resonant, the eternal struggle between faith and adversity. The Philistines, throughout the biblical narratives, played a pivotal role in the historical and spiritual drama of Israel. Their relationship with the Israelites is marked by intense rivalry, extending beyond physical battles into the cultural, religious, and political realms. The books of Judges, 1 Samuel, and 2 Samuel are rich in details about this tumultuous relationship, offering accounts that illuminate the unique role of the Philistines in shaping Israelite identity. On several occasions, the Bible portrays the Philistines as an instrument of God to correct or discipline the Israelites. In the book of Judges, for instance, they emerge as oppressors after the people of Israel stray from divine paths. The story of Samson is emblematic in this context. In Judges 13-16, Samson is chosen by God from birth to begin liberating Israel from Philistine oppression. He waged a personal war against this people, filled with moments of superhuman strength, such as the destruction of the temple of Dagon, the Philistine god. On the other hand, Samson's relationship with Delilah, a Philistine woman, reveals another important aspect of this coexistence: the complexity of cultural interactions. Despite the antagonism, there were personal exchanges and even fragile alliances between the two peoples, which often resulted in tragedy or significant lessons. No story better encapsulates the rivalry between Israelites and Philistines than the confrontation between David and Goliath, narrated in 1 Samuel 17. Goliath, a Philistine giant armed with the finest military technology of the time, challenged the Israelite army for 40 days until young David, armed only with a sling and unwavering faith, defeated him. This episode transcends the physical conflict. Goliath symbolized Philistine might, while David represented trust in the God of Israel. David's victory marked the beginning of his rise as a leader and future king of Israel, cementing the idea that true victory did not depend on strength or weaponry, but on an alliance with God. Beyond individual stories, The books of 1 Samuel and 2 Samuel recount numerous battles between the two peoples. The Philistines were responsible for one of Israel's most humiliating defeats, the capture of the Ark of the Covenant. In 1 Samuel 4, the Israelites, confident that the Ark's presence would ensure victory, suffered a devastating defeat, and the Ark was taken to Philistia. The Ark's presence in Philistine cities brought a series of calamities, such as plagues and the destruction of Dagon's temple. These events reinforced the perception of the supremacy of Israel's God, even among the Philistines, who eventually returned the Ark after 7 months of disasters. As Israel consolidated under David's reign, the Philistines began to lose their dominance. David, now king, faced the Philistines on several occasions, defeating them and diminishing their influence. In 2 Samuel 5, David captured Jerusalem and established it as Israel's capital, marking the beginning of a new era of national unity. This long history of conflicts shaped both peoples, but for the Israelites, the Philistines represented a constant reminder of the need to rely on God in the face of adversity. Over time, the Philistines, once so feared, began to gradually disappear from the historical stage. This decline is partially mentioned in biblical narratives, but is also confirmed by historical and archaeological records. The books of 1 and 2 Samuel highlight the military and territorial downfall of the Philistines, particularly during David's reign, but external factors also contributed to the end of this civilization. During the First Temple period, major regional powers began to emerge, such as the Assyrians and later the Babylonians. These nations conquered and subjugated smaller peoples, including the Philistines. In 2 Kings 18, there are accounts of how the Assyrians, under Sargon and Sennacherib, imposed their dominance over the Philistine region. Philistine cities such as Ashdod and Gaza were plundered or placed under direct control of the invaders. With the Babylonian invasion, led by Nebuchadnezzar in the 6th century BC, Philistine influence was further diminished. Their cities were destroyed or absorbed by conquering powers. Thus, the Philistine identity, already weakened by centuries of conflict, virtually disappeared. Another critical factor in the disappearance of the Philistines was cultural assimilation. As the Philistines lost territory and political influence, many were integrated into neighboring societies, such as the Canaanites and other peoples in the region. This assimilation was accelerated by the loss of their language and unique religious practices, which were replaced by dominant cultures such as the Assyrian, Babylonian, and later Persian. Although the Philistines vanished from historical records after the Babylonian exile, their impact remains alive in biblical narratives. They are remembered as constant enemies of Israel, a symbol of oppression that, paradoxically, helped shape Israel's spiritual and national identity. However, the Bible also shows us that the relationship between Israelites and Philistines was not always purely hostile. The story of Delilah, mentioned in Judges, and commercial interactions described in other passages suggest there were periods of coexistence and even cultural exchange. It is important to note that the term Philistine is sometimes used anachronistically to describe certain modern peoples, especially in the region of Palestine. However, scholars agree that there is no direct connection between the ancient Philistines and any contemporary group. The Philistines, as a people, disappeared entirely, leaving behind only archaeological remains and the striking stories preserved in the pages of the Bible. Although the Philistines disappeared as a people, advances in modern archaeology have brought to light many aspects of their culture and way of life. Excavations in Philistine cities mentioned in the Bible, such as Ashdod, Gaza, Ekron, Gath, and Ashkelon, have revealed a fascinating portrait of a sophisticated and culturally diverse people. Since the 19th century, archaeologists have explored ancient Philistine territories, uncovering evidence that challenges the view of them as merely barbaric warriors. For example, in Ashkelon, researchers discovered large fortifications, grain storage facilities, and even cemeteries, indicating complex burial practices. These findings reveal that the Philistines had an organized and technologically advanced society. Another highlight is the discovery of unique Philistine pottery, characterized by geometric patterns and Aegean influences. This pottery, found in abundance in Ekron and Gath, confirms the Philistines' maritime connections to the Mediterranean world. Additionally, cuneiform texts uncovered in Ekron list names of Philistine kings, providing a direct link between biblical accounts and archaeological history. Philistine religion has also intrigued scholars. The Bible mentions Dagon as one of their primary deities, and archaeological evidence supports this. At sites like Tel Ashdod, temples have been unearthed that may have been dedicated to deities such as Dagon and Baal-zebub. Furthermore, stone altars and religious artifacts suggest ritual practices that combined local and foreign influences. Discoveries also point to the use of music and dance in rituals, highlighting that the Philistines were much more than warriors. They had a rich and diverse cultural life. The Philistines left a profound mark on biblical culture and popular imagination. They are often depicted as symbols of opposition to God's plans, but their interactions with Israel, as seen in the stories of Samson, Goliath, and others, served as lessons in faith, perseverance, and the importance of trusting in God. However, archaeological research has helped to reassess this simplistic view, presenting the Philistines as a complex, adaptable people who were an integral part of the ancient history of the Middle East. The fate of the Philistines remains an intriguing mystery. Although they disappeared as a political and cultural entity, their interactions with Israel left lessons that echo to this day. More than mere biblical antagonists, the Philistines represent an important chapter in the story of how God shaped and protected his people amidst challenges. The Bible portrays the fall of the Philistines as part of the fulfillment of divine plans, demonstrating that no force, no matter how great it seems, can prevail against God's purposes. This message still resonates, reminding us that the battles we face today can be won through faith and obedience to God's will. Furthermore, advances in archaeology continue to enrich our understanding of the Philistines, challenging old biases and offering a broader perspective on their culture and legacy. Each new discovery not only illuminates the past, but also strengthens the connection between biblical narratives and historical records. Thus, the Philistines, though extinct, continue to teach valuable lessons. They serve as a reminder that amidst human conflicts, there is a greater purpose governing history, pointing to divine sovereignty. And before we conclude, I have an important request for you. If this content has edified your life or deepened your understanding of God's Word, don't forget to like this video. This helps our channel grow and reach more people with these transformative messages. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any Bible studies, and share this video with someone who will also be blessed by this message. Together, we can spread the truth of the Bible and inspire lives.